I don't want to go on repeating myself. And we have a wonderful lady here called Sharon, who's going to help me today. Because when people ask questions, and I think we'll go into that straight away, question and answers, she's going to repeat the questions. Because often, if the question comes from the front row, people at the back can't hear what the question is. And therefore the answer is going to sound even sillier than it will normally. So, Sharon, if we start off, and Sharon will repeat the question.
You notice I'm dressed for the occasion. How much warning I don't want to get out of your way. Okay. Do you want to pick a hand or should I? Pick a hand? Okay. You know what I say?
Where is he from? I love your accent.
Where are you from? She loves your accent. She said it just like that.
Well, originally I was born in the Channel Islands, which is a group of islands off the coast of France, but very much part of Great Britain. A little island called Guernsey. As a matter of fact, I went back there last week. I hadn't been back for over 30 years, and it was absolutely delightful for me to find that nothing very much had changed there. Because there's so much change going on in the world, and this remote little island set in the English Channel has remained practically unchanged. I lived there until the German occupation. Just after the fall of France, when the Germans had run right through Belgium and Holland and France, we knew our turn was going to be next. And indeed, they invaded the Channel Islands, and I was very lucky. I managed to escape with some friends in a small fishing boat and got to England. And then after a series of adventures, I stuck my age on until I was 18. Actually, I was 14 at the time. And I managed to get into the Royal Air Force. And I flew with the Royal Air Force for 2 years. And then I was shot down in 1942, beginning of 1942, and became a prisoner of war for 3 years. But it was great, because in prison war camp I became interested in acting for the first time. In a rather strange way, the first part I ever played on the stage, I'm digressing a little from where I got this awful voice, didn't I? What was the question? Well, I'm English, I'm afraid, or at least British. We've always prided ourselves, you see, in the Channel Islands, that we're not English, that we are British, although really, we always maintain that England belongs to the Channel Islands, not the other way around. There's a great deal of truth in that, simply because the islands were originally part of the Duchy of Normandy, and they still speak the ancient language of Normandy in the islands. And William the Conqueror, the Duke of Normandy, came across and beat up the English and set himself up as the King of England. And to this very day, when the Queen visits the island, she's never heralded as the Queen. She's always heralded as La Duchesse. And that's why over there we have our own Parliament, we have our own tax regulations, which are wonderful. There is no tax on tobacco or spirits or perfume. So it's all right, yes, a place to go back to. So in prison war camp I became interested in acting, and because of my age, I hadn't even started shaving then. I got raped in... female parts. The first part I ever played on the stage was the fairy godmother, Cinderella. And then I went on, I did all sorts of parts. I mean, I played Portia in The Merchant of Venice. And then eventually I progressed. I'll tell you a long story, if I may, about how I really became a professional actor, because there was a production that was scheduled in Prison of War Camp in 1942. It was a wonderful play, which I urge you all to read if you haven't read it, called Winterset by Maxwell Anderson. It's written in blank verse, and I think it compares very favorably with a good deal of Shakespeare, and that is high praise indeed for me. It's the story of the Sacco Vanzetti case, basically. They were a couple of radicals. They were out standing up for the rights of the workers, and they were deemed to be radicals by the political power at the time. And they lived in Boston, and they were wrongly accused, falsely accused of the murder of a paymaster. And they were in jail. They were jailed for 4 years after a travesty of justice. The trial was absurd. They were blatantly innocent. They were proved to be 30 miles away when the crime happened. But they were actually in prison for 4 years. And at the end of it, they were electrocuted. I tried to audition for this part, and there were 64 of us auditioned for the part of Mio Romagna, who is the son of one of these men who were murdered. And he sets out, the last time he saw his father was in the death cell when he was 4 years old. And his quest in life is to bring to justice the people who actually were responsible for the murder, and therefore the murder of his father. And he is only 17, and he traveled all over America trying to find evidence to prove his point. And one day in a street dance in the rat-infested tenement area of the Hudson River, he meets a young Jewish girl, Miriam, and falls in love with her. But is very afraid that this love for her may tempt him from the main quest in his life. Now, I auditioned for this, and eventually I got the part, and we started rehearsing it. And this was at Stalag 3, where we did the Wooden Horse Escape, the Great Escape. And after, just as the show was about to go on, the Germans got us in cattle trucks, and they moved us right across Germany up into Lithuania. And so we never put Winterset on, but we kept it in rehearsal. There was no theatre in this place called Heidekrug, in this camp, Stalag 6, so we started building it there. And after a year, the theatre was completed, and Winterset, which we kept in rehearsal the whole time, was due to go on. We actually did the dress rehearsal, and it went magnificently. And afterwards, we were having notes from the director in the barracks, the huts, when somebody looked out the window and said, "Oh my God, there's a fire in the compound," and it was our theatre, which had burned to the ground. So we started rebuilding. And at that point, the Russians started advancing into Lithuania. So the Germans got us out in cattle trucks again and took us right down into Poland, the place called Torn in Poland, where once again there was no theatre, so we started building a theatre, and we kept Winterset in rehearsal, and just as it was due to go on, the Russians advanced into Poland. So once again, in cattle trucks and right across to West Germany to a place called Vollenhof. There was a theatre, it was an army camp, and they had a whole schedule of productions lined up, where we tacked our Winterset onto the end of the schedule, and we rehearsed it and carried on rehearsing it. And just as we were due to put it on, the 8th Army advanced into the So I had rehearsed Winterset every day for 3.5 years. Never played the part. Desperate to play it. And all the kind of managements I worked for after the war, they were only interested in doing very commercial plays. And when they said, "Do you have a play you want to do?" I said, "Yes, it's not a play called Winterset." They said, "Great, we'll do it. What's it about?" I said, "It's in blank verse." I said, "Forget it." And so I never could get this play on until eventually, in my own little island I mentioned of Guernsey, in the early 50s, I formed my own company, and I rehearsed for a month, and I put on Winterset, and I played Mia after all those years. Mia, after all those years. And it was quite the worst performance I'd ever given in my life. I was then well into my 30s, and I should have been 17. As a matter of fact, the play was so embedded in my mind, I don't know if I should. Miriam, this little Jewish girl, and Mio is quite interesting because there is some lovely stuff in it. But it is in blank verse, so if you can use your imagination, I'm going to have to play both parts here, all right? It's over 30 years he hasn't acted this. So if you can imagine when I look that way, I'm Miriam, and that way, let's stand on the way you won't see me at the back, Mio. So Miriam says, "Tell me your name." He says, "Mio, what's yours?" Mio, M-I-O, that's no name. It's for Bartholomew. My mother's name was Miriam, so they called me Miriam, meaning Little Miriam. Yes. So now, little Miriam will go on in and take up quietly where she left them all, her small housewifely cares. When I first saw you, not a half hour ago, I heard myself saying, "This is the place that launches ships for me. And if I owned a dream, here's half a dream. We share it. But I have no dream. This earth came tumbling down from chaos, fire and rock, and bred up worms, blind worms that sting each other here in the dark. And these blind worms of the earth took out my father and killed him and set a sign on me, the heir of the serpent. And he was a man such as men might be if the gods were men. But they killed him, as they'll kill all others like him, till the sun cools down to the stabler molecules, yes, till men spin their tent worm webs to the stars and what they think is done, even in the thinking. And they are the gods, and immortal, and constellations turn for them all like mill wheels. Still as they are, they will be worms and blind. Enduring love, oh gods and worms, what mockery. And yet, I have blood enough in my veins. It goes like music, singing, because you're here. My body turns as if you were the sun, and warm. This men call love in happier times, before the Freudians taught us to blame it on the glands. I will take my hands and weave them into a little house, and there you shall keep a dream. God knows I could use a dream, and even a house. You're laughing at me, Mia. The worms are laughing. I tell you, I'm alone and half blind with hate and longing. Oh, I shall let you love me, and love you in return, and then, why then God knows what happens. Something most unpleasant. Love in a boxcar, love among the children. I see too much of it. Are we to live in this same house you make with your two hands, mystically out of air? No roof, no mortgage. Very well, I shall marry a baker out in Flatbush. She gives hot bread in the morning. Oh, Mio. Mio, in all the unwanted places and wastelands that roll out of darkness into sun and into sun out of dark, there should be one empty for you and me. No. Then go now and leave me. I'm only a girl who met in the tenements, and there's been nothing said. Mary Emily. Oh, why, girl, the transfiguration on the mount was nothing to your face. It lights from within, a white chalice holding fire, a flower in flame. And you shall drink that flame and never lessen it. And round your head the aureole shall burn that burns there now forever. This I can give you. And so wherever the Freudians are wrong, well, they're well forgotten at any rate. Why did you speak to me when you first saw me? I knew then. And I came back because I must see you again. And we danced together. And my heart hurt me. Never, never, Mia, though they should bind me down and tear out my eyes, would I ever hurt you. Now take me with you, Mia. Let them look for us wherever there is to look, but we will be away. When I was 4 years old, we climbed to an iron gate, my mother and I, to see my father in prison. He stood in the death cell, put his hand to the bars and said, "My Mio, I have only this to leave you, that I love you, and will love you after I die." That night, the guards, walking in floodlights brighter than high noon, led him between them, with his trousers slit and a shaven head for the captains. This sleet and rain that I feel cold here on my face and hands will find him under 13 years of clay in prison ground. Lie still and rest, my father, for I have not forgotten. When I forget, may I lie blind as you. No other love. Time passing on a space like years, a sun shall blur your voice, or tempt me from the path that clears your name till I have these rats in my grip. Or sleep, deep, where you sleep. I have no house, no home, no love of life, no fear of death, no care for what I eat or who I sleep with, no what color of calcimine the government will wash itself this year or next to lure the sheep and feed the wolves. Love somewhere else and get your children in some other image more acceptable to the state. This face of mine is stamped for sewage. Thank you. It's amazing, isn't it? I last did that, however badly. I did it in 1955, and I haven't read it since. So bless you for being so bad.
Right here.
You missed the stage?
You missed the stage.
Yes and no. One miss, as one I'm enjoying at the moment, the wonderful live response from you. That's something that you can't get on television. But it is wonderful to be able to feel an audience and to feel that hopefully that they're with you and enjoying what you're doing. That's something you can't get from television. On the other hand, the stage is full of heartbreak on many occasions. You can send a play and be sent a play, and some playwright sends you a play, and you read it, and you think, I think it's magnificent, I think it's so relevant, it's a play I want to do. And so you then work with the director, and you maybe workshop it, and then you decide to take it out on a provincial tour, a regional tour, and you tour it, and you get it into the best shape you possibly can. And then you bring it on to Broadway or into the West End of London. And the critics crucify it for whatever reason. And it's all over. It's heartbreaking, and it's months and months of hard work that can finish overnight, whereas if you're doing a television series, at least you know, with the kindness of CBS, you're going to do 12 episodes. And it's there. And also another famous, and not so famous, he collected them together in a series of biographies, which he called Brief Lives. And we fashioned a little show out of this, which we thought was far too academic and would never, ever be commercial. But we tried out to satisfy ourselves in 1964 at a little theatre in Hampstead, a little fringe theatre. And it was bought on the second night by David Susskind for Broadway. So we took it to Broadway, and we had an enormous success on Broadway with it. In fact, I brought it back to Broadway in, I think, 74. And I toured it around the world, and it's still in the Guinness Book of Records as the world's longest running one-man show. I did 1,700 performances of it around the world. I played every part of the world, except, alas, the west coast of America. One of these days I would like to do it here. But during that period of time, and this is it's a long-winded way of getting around to answer your question, but during that period of time, and all those endless hours, I had a 3.5-hour makeup job before each show. So I worked out once I spent I don't know how many months, almost years in the makeup show, making up. But during that time I played to practically capacity business every matinee and every evening, which meant about 1,000 people each time. And during the course of that period, which existed over about 8 years, I played to just over 3 million people. Now in one night on television, Beauty and the Beast played to about 12 million. On a good night, maybe 14 million. That's the difference between stage. And so as a means of popularizing your image and hopefully getting more work and more recognition, that you cannot beat television. It's better, I think, than film. It's very strange how Edward Woodward, we and I were discussing this only yesterday morning before I left, how a lot of people look down their noses, film stars look down their noses at television and say it's only television, I can't be bothered. What they don't realize is that a successful television show, and Beauty and the Beast may not be the most successful show ever, but at least it's been sold to 85 foreign countries. They've been magnificent, and so it's a wonderful means, television, of, I could never perform in Germany or in any of the other countries. I was once, I remember, doing a film in Denmark, and one night in my hotel room, because Denmark is just across the border, as you know, from Sweden, I switched on television, and I was watching this guy. It was so long ago, it was in black and white over. And I was watching this guy who'd gone mad, and he was like a mad sniper on the top of this water tower, sniping at people. He'd gone totally berserk. And he had this most wonderful Swedish voice. And I thought, I know that face, I know that man. I met him. It took me 3 minutes to realize it was me. I had a version sent me the other day of Beauty and the Beast in Chinese. Vincent's voice goes up at least 3 octaves. She was wearing very tight pair of knickers that day. If I can go back to Greek Lies for a moment, that was interesting because, as I say, I played him as this very old man in the last day of his life, and we tried to present it as a slice of Jacobean kitchen sink. We had a very elaborate set, which was constructed of all the memorabilia that John Aubrey had collected during his life. It was a very complete set. And had a real bar on stage and all those sort of things. And I hope one of these days it's going to be shown on American television. I would like it to be on a cable station or something. Because there are 1 or 2 words in it which the Elizabethans thought were rather daring, But he did know a lot of people. I'll give you an example of the sort of stories he used to tell. Regarding, we'll say, Sir Walter Raleigh. He said, Sir Walter, being invited to some great house to dinner, where his son was to go with him, Sir Walter said to his son, "Thou art such a quarrelsome, affronting creature. I'm ashamed to have such a bear in my company."